The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, the Vedanta, lecture delivered by Swami Vivekananda at Lahore in 1897, Part 4. Well then, we have to understand now what is meant by this manas, buddhi, chitta, ahamkar, etc. First of all, let us take chitta. It is the mind stuff. A part of that mahat. It is the generic name for the mind itself, including all its various states. Suppose on a summer evening there is a lake, smooth and calm, without a ripple on its surface. And suppose someone throws a stone into this lake. What happens? First, there is an action, the blow given to the water. Next, the water rises and sends a reaction towards the stone. And that reaction takes the form of a wave. First, the water vibrates a little and immediately sends back a reaction in the form of a wave. The chitta, let us compare to this lake, and the external objects are like the stones thrown into it. As soon as it comes into contact with any external object, by means of these indriyas, the indriyas must be there to carry these external objects inside. There is a vibration, what is called manas, indecisive. Next, there is a reaction, the determinative faculty, buddhi, and along with this buddhi flashes the idea of aham and the external object. Suppose there is a mosquito sitting upon my hand. This sensation is carried to my chitta and it vibrates a little. This is the psychological manas. Then there is a reaction and immediately comes the idea that I have a mosquito on my hand and that I shall have to drive it off. Thus these stones are thrown into the lake. But in the case of the lake, every blow that comes to it is from the external world. While in the case of the lake of the mind, the blows may either come from the external world or the internal world. This whose series is what is called the antahkarna. Along with it, you ought to understand one thing more that will help us in understanding the Advaita system later on. It is this. All of you must have seen pearls and most of you know how pearls are formed. A grain of sand enters into the shell of a pearl oyster and sets up an irritation there. And the oyster's body reacts towards that irritation and covers the little particle with its own juice. That crystallizes and forms the pearl. So the whole universe is like that. It is the pearl which is being formed by us. What we get from the external world is simply the blow. Even to be conscious of that blow, we have to react. And as soon as we react, we really project a portion of our own mind towards the blow. And when we come to know of it, it is really the blow of our own mind as it is been shaped by the blow. Therefore, it is clear even to those who want to believe in a hard and fast realism of an external world that they cannot but admit in these days of physiology that supposing we represent the external world by X, what we really know is X plus mind. And this mind element is so great that it has covered the whole of that X, which has remained unknown and unknowable throughout. And therefore, if there is an external world, it is always unknown and unknowable. What we know of it is as it is molded, formed, fashioned by our own mind. So with the internal world. The same applies to our own soul, the Atman. In order to know the Atman, we shall have to know it through the mind. And therefore, whatever little we know of this Atman is simply the Atman plus the mind. That is to say, the Atman covered over, fashioned and molded by the mind, and nothing more. We shall return to this in a little later, but we will remember what has been told here. The next thing to understand is this. The question arose that this body is the name of one continuous stream of matter. Every moment we are adding material to it, and every moment material is being thrown off by it. Like a river, continually flowing, vast masses of water always changing places. Yet all the same, we are taking up the whole thing in imagination and call it the same river. What do we call the river? Every moment the water is changing, the shore is changing, every moment the environment is changing. What is the river then? It is the name of this series of changes. So with the mind. That is the great Shanika Vijnana Vada doctrine. Most difficult to understand, but most rigorously and logically worked out in the Buddhistic philosophy. And this arose in India in opposition to some part of the Vedanta. That had to be answered, and we shall see later on how it could not only be answered by Advaitism and by nothing else. We will see also how, in spite of the people's curious notions about Advaitism, people's fright about Advaitism, it is the salvation of the world, because therein alone is to be found the reason of things. Dualism and the other isms are very good as means of worship, very satisfying to the mind, and maybe they have helped the mind outward. But if a man wants to be rational and religious at the same time, Advaita is the one system in the world for him. Well, now we shall regard the mind as the same river, continually filling itself at one end and emptying itself at the other. Where is that idea which we call the Atman? The idea is this, that in spite of this continuous change in the body and in spite of this continuous change in the mind, there is in us something that is unchangeable, which makes our ideas of things appear unchangeable. When rays of light coming from different quarters fall upon a screen or a wall or upon something that is not changeable, then and then alone it is possible for them to form a unity. And then alone it is possible for them to form one complete whole. Where is this unity in the human organs, falling upon which, as it were, the various ideas will come to unity and become one complete whole? This certainly cannot be the mind itself, seeing that it also changes. Therefore, there must be something which is neither the body nor the mind, something which changes not, something permanent, upon which all our ideas, our sensations, fall to form a unity and a complete whole. And this is the real soul, the Atman of man. And seeing that everything material, whether you call it fine matter or mind, must be changeable. Seeing that what you call gross matter, the external world, must also be changeable in comparison to that, this unchangeable something cannot be of material substance. Therefore, it is spiritual. That is to say, it is not matter. It is indestructible, unchangeable.